What is going on, everyone? My name is Jamon McKinney, but of course, you can just call me Juice because that is my nickname. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, into the Juice Alert. If you have not subscribed to the Juice Alert already, be sure to do that right about now. You will not regret it. You can find the Juice Alert on YouTube as well as podcasting platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that great stuff. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave it a like here on YouTube if you're watching. And if you're listening on podcasting networks or platforms, be sure to leave me a good rating and review. It definitely helps out the show right here. Today, we're going to dive into some very, very fun college football and NFL topics. But before I do get started, I just want to say follow me on social media, whether that be Instagram, Twitter /X, TikTok, you name it. I'm on social media. I put the social media handles on your screen for you to maybe take some time to screenshot here on YouTube and maybe jot down quickly. If you're listening on a podcasting network, all the links to my social media platforms are in the description of this episode. So be sure to check out those handles and type them in and follow me on social media. Would love to connect with you guys on a much higher and deeper note. Last but not least, check out MLBBro.com. It is a African American related Major League Baseball website covering all African Americans in Major League Baseball, whether it be in the majors or the minors. It doesn't matter. It was founded by Rob Parker. I am a part of the team. I produce content for the social media for MLBBro.com, so be sure to check that out if you have not checked it out already and you're a baseball fan. Without further ado, let's get right into things. So, Ryan Day, in his Ohio State career, is now 1-3 versus the Michigan Wolverines. He's lost 3 straight games to Michigan. Let me just say right now, the excuses for Ryan Day have flatly run out. They flatly run out, people. We're in year number 6, and Ryan Day has yet to lead Ohio State to a national championship. We're going to be heading into year number 7 of next year, and the expectation should 100% be national championship or bust for Ryan Day. And I get it. It's a very harsh criticism, but when you're coaching at Ohio State or Alabama, a big major program, the expectations are national championship or bust. That is how you're going to be judged. You're judged by a different standard. This is not Southern Arkansas. Okay, this is not Deion Sanders at Colorado coming into a situation where the team barely won anything a year ago. Ryan Day came into a situation where you're coaching the Ohio State Buckeyes, and to be honest, the foundation was laid pretty good for you from the jump. I mean, Urban Meyer, he was a great head coach at Ohio State. He laid down the culture, the foundation, and gave Ryan Day a great opportunity to pick up right where he left off. And listen, you can say, oh, you're being too harsh on Ryan Day. Listen, people, I've been the same way with Kirby Smart, and I've been the same way with Jim Harbaugh. I was on Kirby Smart for a long time until he finally pulled through and won a national championship. Because here's the thing, people. When you're at a major program, and after about year number 4, I'm done with the excuses. You've had enough time to bring in your recruits. You've had enough time to establish your culture. Again, this is not Southern Arkansas or a random middle-of-the-pack school out of nowhere. No, this is the Ohio State University, people. You can look at 2019 and say, okay, Ohio State had a great team, an all-time talented team. I mean, LSU won the national championship that year. I felt 2019 Ohio State was just as talented. But, okay, this is early in the Ryan Day stages. You lose to Clemson, fine. But even last season, I felt Ohio State had a great chance to win the national championship with C.J. Stroud being the quarterback. Everyone talks about how, Georgia hadn't lost, so many games. They'd won 25, 28 straight games until they recently lost to Alabama this year. I get it. Georgia's loaded. But Ohio State had a lead on Georgia late in that game, and it was blown. I mean, you have Marvin Harrison Jr. this season, who many people consider to be a generational type player. I mean, Ryan Day hasn't made it at Ohio State. And at some point, Ryan Day has to pull through and win a national championship. If Ryan Day is not capable of winning a national championship for the Ohio State Buckeyes, he needs to go. Now, Ohio State is giving him another opportunity for the upcoming season. We'll see how this plays out. But the excuses are ran out for Ryan Day. I mean, the adjustments need to be better. The play calling needs to be better. I mean, just overall, it seems like Michigan just punched Ohio State in the mouth. And I understand that, you're going into Michigan. It's a tough, hostile environment to play in. But losing 3 straight games to the Michigan Wolverines when you have a great team by your side, I mean, it's not acceptable in Buckeye land. Because here's the thing, people. Even if Ryan Day were to lose every single game on his schedule, except for the Michigan game, the season at least is somewhat salvageable because at least you beat your in-state rival. So, it's very interesting. We'll see if Ryan Day can win a national championship at Ohio State. But all I'm saying is we're heading into year number 7 next season. And 7 years at Ohio State, only 1 national championship appearance, no national titles. There's something to be said about that. So Ryan Day is on the hot seat. He's in the Kirby Smart territory that Kirby was in a couple of years ago when Kirby hadn't won a national championship. He's in the same category Jim Harbaugh's in right now. Harbaugh's been at Michigan for what? 8-9 years, hasn't won a national championship. I'm still criticizing him right now. So that's how I feel about Ryan Day. No more excuses. The excuses have flatly run out. What does Ryan Day not have at Ohio State? He's got a great coaching staff that he's assembled. He's got great players, the defense, the offense. I understand that Kyle McCord kind of fell flat on his face in that Michigan game, and he's not the best quarterback in the country, but I just saw Kirby Smart win a national championship with Stetson Bennett being his quarterback. And I'm not saying, I'm not here to compare the quarterbacks because we all know Stetson Bennett played big in big spots, but that's the key. He played big in big spots. He managed the game. So you don't need a Deshaun Watson or a Trevor Lawrence or, someone like that to win a national championship. Kirby Smart just proved it last year. Like literally last year. It's not like it was 10 years ago where, you needed, defense, run game, special teams, quarterback wasn't much of a need. I understand having a 5-star quarterback helps you a ton. But if you're a great head coach and you have a great team, you should be able to win a national championship. So that's how I feel about Ryan Day. And not to mention, Ryan Day at one point had Justin Fields and CJ Stroud as his quarterbacks. So you have first-round picks at quarterback in college, and you can get it done even back then. So, yeah, the excuses have ran out for Ryan Day, and that's how I feel. So the question that we have to answer is, was keeping Ryan Day at Ohio State a mistake for the Buckeyes? Honestly, it remains to be seen. Because as much as I just criticized Ryan Day, Ohio State's right there. They're a top 5 program in the country. They've been a top 5 program in the country for the better part of about a decade and a half, to be honest with you. I mean, name me 5 more successful college programs over the past 10 to 15 years outside of Ohio State. I mean, you can maybe name Alabama, Clemson, Georgia. There's probably some other teams out there that just off the top of my head I'm not listing. But, I mean, you got to ask the question. Which head coach right now is going to significantly make Ohio State better? If there's not a significant upgrade out there, then yeah, Ryan Day needs to stay put. Because here's the thing. Ohio State is not looking to go from average to good. They're looking to go from potentially good and great to national championship level. Very good to winning the championship. That's where Ohio State is trying to get to. They're trying to win the first national championship since the 2014-2015 season. But we got to be real, people. Let's take a little bit of a step back. Ohio State has been spoiled compared to other college football programs out there. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, it seems like every single year Ohio State is right there in the picture to win the national championship, And Ryan Day has his flaws. I would say Ryan Day is a little bit more overrated than underrated at this point. But Ryan Day has been a darn successful college football head coach up to this point. You can say, he inherited a great situation. It doesn't matter. He's, for the most part, maximized it outside of winning a national championship. And you never know the value of a great head coach until that head coach is gone. I mean, John Madden, when he was with the Raiders, have they found a great head coach to be close to that guy ever since? No, they haven't. Drew Brees with the New Orleans Saints, I understand that this is a quarterback comparison and not a head coach comparison, but the New Orleans Saints have not been anything close to what they were when Drew Brees was manning the ship at quarterback in town. It seems like Ohio State is just banking on the fact, or maybe the belief, I should say, that Ryan Day at some point is going to get it done. It's a risk continuing to roll with Ryan Day as the head coach, but let's keep it real, people. It's not like it's a huge, huge risk. Because let's say Ryan Day loses to Michigan again next season. It will be devastating. Don't get me wrong, 4 straight games, lost to Michigan, maybe doesn't, win a national championship next season. But I'd be shocked if Ohio State doesn't win anywhere from 10 to 11 games once again. So even in a down season, you're winning 10, 11 games, So this is a good problem for Ohio State to have. I truly believe that Ryan Day can get it done, but he will need to be a better in-game adjuster. And he needs to find a way to bring back that physical brand of football that Ohio State used to play a couple of years ago. Urban Meyer-led teams, they punch you in the mouth. They were a physical, hard-nosed football team. It seems like Ohio State has kind of been a little bit more finesse than I would like them to be, despite having so many good NFL players. Like, there's a level of toughness and physicality that Alabama and Georgia plays with that you don't quite always see with Ohio State. So, got to get a little bit bigger and beefier up front, and that's how I feel about Ryan Day. It's a risk for Ohio State to bring him back, but it's not the worst risk in the world, and only time will tell if Ryan Day, being brought back at Ohio State was the right decision. We got to talk about Jim Harbaugh. So it seems like Michigan might be overtaking Ohio State as the best team in the Big Ten. It's not crazy to say right now that Michigan is the number 1 program in the Big Ten right now. And that's saying a lot because it seemed like for a while Jim Harbaugh was never going to get over the hump and beat Ohio State. It just seemed like every time he faced Ohio State, he got punched in the face, got kicked to the ground, and was never going to get back up. I applaud Jim Harbaugh. But the reality of the situation is this. Jim Harbaugh beating Ohio State, just doing that is not good enough. It's not good enough. Everyone seems to be slurping over Jim Harbaugh because, oh yeah, Harbaugh, he finally figured out how to beat Ohio State 3 straight years in a row. Folks, that's the bare minimum if you're the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, people. Michigan could go 1-11 on the season. But if that one win was against Ohio State, Jim Harbaugh or whoever that head coach is somewhat going to get a pat on the back. We're in year number 9, people. And Jim Harbaugh has had 2 playoff appearances. This will be his 3rd playoff appearance this season as we speak. But up to this point, 0 playoff victories, 0 playoff bowl wins. In fact, Jim Harbaugh is 1-6 in bowl games up to this point. 1-6? Has Jim Harbaugh brought relevancy to Michigan? Yes, he has. But can we at least see Jim Harbaugh appear in a national championship game? Is that a little bit too much to ask? I don't think my standards are too high. I mean, folks, we're in year number 9 for Jim Harbaugh. And look, let me just say this really quickly. This may be the very last year that Jim Harbaugh is at Michigan because of the cheating scandals, because he may seem like he wants a new change. I mean, he's been there for 9 years, for crying out loud. So that's a long time. And now with the cheating scandals, we don't really know what's going to happen. But I'm giving Jim Harbaugh the same energy I'm giving to Kirby Smart and Ryan Day. I was on Kirby Smart for a long time until Kirby Smart finally pulled through and won a national championship. I said, after year number 4, number 5, you got to start winning a national championship. I mean, time is ticking. Ryan Day is on the national championship clock as we speak. If Ryan Day does not win a national championship next season, it's a failure. That's just the harsh reality of playing at a big-time program like Ohio State or at Michigan. And if Jim Harbaugh is such a great head coach, like all you people tell me he is, the standard has to be this high. If you disagree, either Michigan's standards overall as a program have lowered tremendously, or Jim Harbaugh is not as good of a head coach as advertised. You can make the argument right now that Jim Harbaugh is actually overrated compared to underrated, because let's look at his whole entire body of work as a head coach. In San Francisco, he had a great team, and he was not able to win a Super Bowl. You can make the argument in that Super Bowl versus his brother, John Harbaugh, he didn't come prepared in the first half. And the only reason why a lot of people thought San Francisco got back in that game was because of Beyonce's power outage. San Francisco had some loaded teams for about a 3-year stretch, and Jim Harbaugh did not win the Super Bowl. Everyone talks about, Jim Harbaugh, he won at Stanford. 58% of his games he won. Folks, David Shaw won 64% of his games at Stanford. He was 5-3 in bowl games at Stanford. So this idea that it's impossible to win at Stanford, that's just delusional. That's not true. That's flatly not true. So when it comes to Jim Harbaugh, all I'm saying is when Jim Harbaugh was brought to Michigan, it was a groundbreaking move. Everyone said, this guy almost won a Super Bowl in the National Football League. He's winning at Stanford. This is a big-time move that potentially could get Michigan back in the national championship picture. If you're in the championship picture, ultimately you would hope to break through and eventually win the national championship. So for me, Jim Harbaugh beating Ohio State, that's the bare minimum. So congratulations. You've done the bare minimum, but I want to see Jim Harbaugh go above and beyond what the bare minimum requirement is. And I actually do believe he can do it, because I think Jim Harbaugh actually is an excellent NFL head coach and an excellent college football head coach. Brett Coleman recently tweeted that Jim Harbaugh deserves a lifetime contract for beating C.J. Stroud twice in college. Gotta give him a lot of credit, because C.J. Stroud, in the NFL, he is tremendous. And Jim Harbaugh was able to beat that guy twice over these past 2 years. So the bottom line is, I believe Jim Harbaugh really can coach, but we're in year number 9. We are past the, I got to bring in my recruits. I got to establish the culture. We're past that time period, people. It is national championship or bust for Jim Harbaugh. And in a field with an Alabama team that isn't all that amazing to me versus a Texas team that is good but not all-time great, a Washington team that has some questions defensively, this is the year for Jim Harbaugh to pull through and win a national championship. And for all the flack Harbaugh has gotten for the cheating scandals and things like that, winning a national championship would silence all the haters for Jim Harbaugh, at least to a degree. That's how I feel. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots have hit officially an all-time low. It's a disaster in New England right now, people. This is a team that not too long ago lost 34-0 at home to a Dennis Allen-led Saints team. Dennis Allen beating Bill Belichick in New England 34-0? This is a team that just lost to the New York Giants, who are on their third-string quarterback. This is a team that lost at home to the Commanders. Washington goes into New England and wins. I mean, that doesn't even sound right anymore. Bill Belichick, the reality of the situation is he has failed to adapt to the modern NFL. See, Bill Belichick is old school. And a long time ago, you could win Super Bowls just playing great defense, running the football, and having great special teams and coaching. As long as you had a solid quarterback, you could win. But nowadays, teams are spreading it out more. They're getting more and more dynamic at wide receiver. Quarterbacks are better than ever. Defensive coaches are kind of outdated. And even a guy like Nick Saban, I know it's the NFL compared to college football, but Nick Saban realized that there was a shift in college football, and he made adjustments. He went out and recruited Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, NFL first-round picks at quarterback, and he started spreading the ball around and getting more and more dynamic at wide receiver and running the spread offense. No more, oh, we're going to run the ball 30, 40 times with Derrick Henry and win. That's no longer Alabama's brand of football. Belichick has failed to make adjustments in the modern NFL. I mean, guys like Andy Reid, Sean McVay, they continue to evolve and adapt. Belichick just seems like he's stuck in his old ways, is afraid to adjust and adapt. I understand Bill Belichick led an all-time great dynasty in New England, but a lot of that had to do with Tom Brady. And I'm not saying Belichick being without Tom Brady has been exposed, because I think that that's doing a huge disservice to Bill Belichick. That's neither here nor there. A conversation for another day, I would say. But this just feels like it's the end of things for Bill Belichick if he cannot adapt and adjust. It seems like Belichick is stubborn, doesn't want to relinquish power, continues to make poor decisions within the coaching staff and on draft night. I mean, he can't draft wide receivers to save his life. I mean, I think it's much more closer to the end for Bill Belichick, because do we really expect Bill Belichick to coach for another 10 seasons in the NFL? I don't personally, at least compared to the way things are trending. The only way I think Bill Belichick can be saved is if he potentially drafts a guy like Caleb Williams or finds a way to get his hands on an elite starting quarterback. That's the only way. And even if they were to get an elite quarterback or Caleb Williams, you're still going to be staring at the Jets defense, the Dolphins defense, and the Bills defense. And Josh Allen is still a great quarterback. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers comes back, I mean, the Jets are a viable team. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa is a good quarterback. Seems to be connecting with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, Miami's built a heck of a team around Tua Tagovailoa. So even if you get Caleb Williams or a great star quarterback, it's not guaranteeing success in New England, because I think New England needs a philosophy change. They need more wide receivers. They need to get more dynamic offensively. And I think Bill Belichick needs to relinquish some of his power. But is Bill Belichick at this point in his career willing to do this? Because here's the thing about Bill Belichick. It's always worked for him. It's been his way or the highway in New England. It seems like even Tom Brady was not even above anyone on that team when Belichick was coaching. It's the Belichick way or the highway, the Patriot way or the highway. But when you're so successful and you've won so many Super Bowls like Bill Belichick has, it is very hard for you to say, yeah, what I'm doing probably is wrong. But there needs to be some harsh conversations had with Belichick in that building, because it's okay to realize, hey, I built an all-time great dynasty, but right now today, the NFL has changed, and I may need to adjust my style of play and my philosophy and my coaching style, because this military style Patriot type way for Belichick, it's not working. These guys seem burned out. Mac Jones, as a young quarterback, doesn't seem like he's getting the guidance they need. And listen, Mac Jones is right now the definition of unimpressive. But I don't think Belichick has done anything to boost that guy's confidence. That's just my opinion and take right there. But regardless, the end could be near for Bill Belichick and the Patriots. And unless Belichick is willing to relinquish some power, I don't see the Patriots returning to being that Super Bowl caliber team year in and year out that everyone thought they'd be. It kind of seems like teams like the Steelers, the Packers, and the Patriots, teams that were dominating and constantly in the Super Bowl conversation for the last 15 to 20 years. It seems like teams like, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and now maybe even the likes of Baltimore are taking over. So that's how I feel about Belichick and the Patriots. They have hit an all-time low. And I think the only thing they can say to Bill Belichick is him admitting that he needs to change his philosophy and potentially getting a star quarterback. I just talked about how Bill Belichick's philosophy is kind of a little bit outdated in today's NFL. The same could be said for Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera is in year number 4 in Washington as a head coach, and Washington is yet to finish with a winning record led by Ron Rivera being the head coach. The high point for Ron Rivera was several years ago when Washington made the playoffs in 2020, but The only reason they made the playoffs was because it was a bad division. Someone had to win that division. It was arguably the worst division I'd ever seen. Okay? I made an episode a long time ago stating, yeah, this might be the worst NFL division I've ever seen in my entire life. The Giants were terrible. The Cowboys were dealing with injuries. They were a mess that season. Philadelphia hadn't got their act together. Just someone was going to win that division. And Washington just so happened to take advantage and win that division. They won a bad division, and Washington hasn't really taken the necessary steps forward to take that next leap. And I said the following year after they made the playoffs that I'm not sure Washington can handle expectations, can handle having a bulletin board on their back where teams are finally actually paying attention to them. There's something to be said for, okay, we make the playoffs this year, but now teams know that we're improved, know we're very talented. They're circling us on their schedule. What are we going to do when there's actual high expectations? Ron Rivera and the Washington organization, they failed miserably in that category. And listen, I felt Ron Rivera was going to come in and make Washington a potential Super Bowl contender. I admit that I felt that way. Maybe I was delusional in my thinking. In hindsight, maybe that is true. But I felt there was real reason to believe that Washington was bringing in a grown-up, a no-nonsense type of guy, a guy that at one point led a team to a Super Bowl in Carolina. But it just seems like a lot of Ron Rivera's success in Carolina was due to the fact that he had a generational talent in Cam Newton that ultimately was probably the leader of the franchise more so than Ron Rivera. And Ron Rivera did bring some initial juice to Washington. He did help change the culture a little bit initially. But when I think of Ron Rivera, I no longer get excited. Because Ron Rivera right now is a defensive-minded head coach. And guys like Andy Reid, Nick Sirianni, Sean McVay, these are the offensive-minded guys that are dominating in today's NFL and are getting to and winning Super Bowls. Ron Rivera is kind of outdated. He's not really an X's and O's type of guy. And you can only go so far by being a super big rah-rah motivational speaker that gets the team riled up. Ron Rivera has the saying of never say die. That's his mentality. And that only goes so far. And even Ron Rivera bringing in a guy like Eric Bieniemy hasn't quite worked out. Eric Bieniemy has, somewhat held his end of the bargain on offense because it looks like Sam Howell, there's maybe something there. But Sam Howell, every single week, he takes a ton of sacks and there's turnovers and it's not all the way meshing together. And you look at Washington, they got some good defensive pieces. They have some nice wide receivers. But it just seems like as an organization, Washington has given up on Ron Rivera. And I think it's only a matter of time until Ron Rivera is fired. And I just think that Ron Rivera, he had his run. During Ron Rivera's prime, he was a great head coach. But it just seems like very similar to Belichick, that style of coaching has gone dead. That military, hard-nosed mentality, defense first, we're never going to die. That mentality and that philosophy, it no longer is the cream of the crop in the NFL. And it just seems like Ron Rivera does not fit today's NFL. And Washington as an organization, they traded away Chase Young, which I felt was a dumb decision. They also traded away Montez Sweat. I think by this offseason, you could see a lot more players getting traded away. And it just seems like, Ron Rivera, there was initial juice in Washington, but it just seems like he's outdated. And this is the honest conversation we have to have about Ron Rivera. It just seems like that he's a little bit outdated and no longer fits today's NFL, and that's okay. But, he could definitely be a head coach somewhere else. Maybe not a head coach, but maybe a defensive coordinator. Maybe be on a defensive staff and help a team. But as far as Ron Rivera being the CEO of your football team, I would not want part of that because I just think that there's not much more juice there. And that's how I feel about Ron Rivera ultimately. Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles 4 plays into his New York Jets career. It was very, very sad. And it just seems like, the Jets, they had this great team that they assembled, whether it be the defense, the run game, the weapons seemed solid. I'm still defending Robert Saleh. I think Robert Saleh is not the problem in New York, and I'll kind of get to that in a little bit. But man, oh man, Aaron Rodgers, he seems determined to come back from this injury. I mean, it just seems like Aaron Rodgers is throwing out possibilities of him returning the same season he tore his Achilles. I mean, could you imagine if Aaron Rodgers comes back in less than 100 days from tearing his Achilles and plays in an NFL football game? Now, do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, but I'm not ruling any scenario out when it comes to Aaron Rodgers because, listen, modern medicine is a huge aid in today's NFL, and Aaron Rodgers to me is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen with my own two eyes, okay? So if anyone can come back within a season from a torn Achilles and still find a way to sling that football around and score touchdowns, it's that bad man Aaron Rodgers, okay? But here's the thing. Whether Aaron Rodgers returns or not from his major injury sooner rather than later, he has inspired confidence in the New York Jets building. The Jets play for Aaron Rodgers, okay? We saw it on opening night. Aaron Rodgers goes down. Everyone thinks that it's going to be a disaster. The team found a way to rally around that and win that game for Aaron Rodgers. A lot of credit to the coaching staff and the players for believing and being inspired by Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers right now is the only reason why the Jets have hope because it seems like they whiffed on Zach Wilson. They don't really have a contingency plan outside of Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. The offense is really, really struggling now that Zach Wilson and the likes of Tim Boyle are being called upon to run the show. And again, Tim Boyle is one of Aaron Rodgers' buddies, so maybe Aaron Rodgers has something to do with this a little bit. But regardless, Aaron Rodgers has inspired confidence in this organization in ways they have not had confidence being thrown their way in really forever. I mean, outside of the Jets Super Bowl year, when have the Jets really had an opportunity or a reason to be super excited? The Jets have hope because of Aaron Rodgers. He's inspiring teammates, and just the fact that Aaron Rodgers is around that building and constantly, around the team while rehabbing, has given this team a lot of confidence, and it's made them respect Aaron Rodgers a lot more. They're willing to go to battle for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers could very much be sitting at home in his mansion, just chilling, rehabbing, and sitting by his couch and watching TV. Aaron Rodgers does not need to be on the sidelines of these games. He could very much be at home, just chilling and rehabbing away from the team. But Aaron Rodgers chooses to stay committed and connected in the building with his teammates. Is that not leadership? I think it is. And I think you get my overall point right here. Because Aaron Rodgers is saying, hey, if this team isn't mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, if I'm cleared to play, I'm going to go out there and suit up and play. And so the Jets, they're fighting for Aaron Rodgers. And you love to see that. And some people are saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers brings in his buddies, Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard. He's tearing down the team. Aaron Rodgers just wants attention because he's coming back from an Achilles and he wants a spotlight on him. Baloney! Baloney. How dare you disrespect Aaron Rodgers like that? This is a guy that potentially had a career-ending injury and is battling his way back to be on the football field. How dare you guys come out there and say Aaron Rodgers is a diva for trying to come back from an historically bad injury? I mean, it's disgusting the way Aaron Rodgers is discussed in the media sometimes, but I will say, I don't know how this Aaron Rodgers fiasco is going to end. It could end in a Super Bowl. It could end in a major disaster. But Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, it feels like a feel-good story. It really, really does. And I'm excited to see Aaron Rodgers suit up whenever he does suit up again for the Jets because he inspires confidence in this team. And, yeah, I mean, when it comes to Rodgers, it's a huge, huge risk, even him coming back to play football again. But at this point, what does Aaron Rodgers have to lose? I mean, I don't think he really has anything to lose. So Aaron Rodgers is out to prove people wrong. That's been his whole motto. Had to go to JUCO college. Doubted at Cal, was not the first overall pick in his draft class when he should have been the unanimous first overall pick looking back on history. But You look at Aaron Rodgers, the minute you tell him he can't do something, he's going to try to prove you wrong. So, look, I think that if Rodgers can come back healthy at some point, next season, the Jets are a viable potential Super Bowl threat. But only time will tell. But it's a really good feel-good story. And Aaron Rodgers has inspired confidence in this building in ways they've never had confidence in the past. And it's a really good thing to see. When it comes to Kyler Murray, I have a very strong opinion, and I'm not going to hold back on it. I think Kyler Murray should demand a trade out of Arizona. Some people are saying, oh, the Cardinals, look at them. Kyler looks feisty. Listen, I'll be the first to tell you, Kyler Murray looks better than ever coming off a major injury, okay? He still can throw that deep ball. He still can run around and make plays. Kyler Murray looks spectacular. And it just seems like Kyler Murray is one of those generational, very talented athletes that only comes around once every blue moon. I mean, this guy was a first-round pick both in the National Football League and in Major League Baseball. He is a special, special talent despite being about 5'10", normal human being height as far as men are concerned. But here's the thing. Kyler Murray must be aware of his worth and his value. And I think you can win a Super Bowl if Kyler Murray is your quarterback. That may be a hot take, but a guy with that skill set, I don't think I'm crazy. I mean, is Kyler Murray that much less talented than Jalen Hurts? I think not. I mean, you look at Joe Burrow. From a talent perspective, is Kyler Murray at least on the same level as Joe Burrow? I think he is. Look, Kyler Murray to me is a special, special talent. There's a reason he was the first overall pick of his draft class. There's a reason why he blew up so quickly at Oklahoma despite only starting one season there. But as talented as Kyler Murray is, he cannot overcome dysfunction. I mean, even look at Tom Brady, his final year in Tampa Bay, where, the coaching staff wasn't as good, the offensive line had injuries. Tom Brady couldn't overcome it. I mean, the reason why Tom Brady left New England was because he said, man, I'm frustrated, Belichick. You don't surround me with good enough wide receivers. For years, Dan Marino couldn't win the Super Bowl because people argued the Dolphins' defense failed him every time. If you're a great commodity, it doesn't matter how great you are. You'll find success somewhere, but even the most talented people cannot overcome dysfunction and not great pieces around them. Whether it be in tech business, entrepreneurship, whatever business you want to throw out there. If you're not surrounded with great people and great minds, you're going to have a ceiling put on your level of success. That's just the reality. And the Cardinals, the wide receiver core is average. The offensive line is just okay. The defense is not all that great. And listen, you're in a division with the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. You really don't have a chance. Come Arizona, compared to those teams, have you seen San Francisco's roster? Have you seen it? It is loaded with talent. The Rams, in a down season, might win 7, 8, 9 games. The Seahawks, really, really talented football team. In fact, all three of these teams right here have appeared in at least one Super Bowl in the last 15 years. This is what Kyler Murray is up against. And again, you could criticize my take all you want. Tom Brady had great support in New England. Stephen Curry always has had great support and great coaching by his side in Golden State. A year where the Warriors were inches away from winning a finals, the Warriors go out and get Kevin Durant to help Steph Curry out. Michael Jordan, Hall of Fame head coach, Hall of Fame teammate, and Scottie Pippen. Even Terry Bradshaw had loaded rosters in Pittsburgh. He was not winning Super Bowls alone. So my point is, if Kyler Murray wants to win a Super Bowl, I don't think he can do it in Arizona. I really don't, because I just don't see any scenario where this team can consistently, year after year, compete with San Francisco, Seattle, and the Rams. I just don't see it. I have no reason to believe this. And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to bet on this young Cardinals coaching staff and this young roster. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but all I'm saying is it is a huge, huge risk if Kyler Murray continues to stay in Arizona. There was a reason why people picked the Arizona Cardinals to potentially finish with the worst record in the National Football League this season, with Kyler Murray dealing with an injury, because they're not that good. And I understand Kyler Murray provides a huge boost for your team. And whenever your starting quarterback is hurt, you're probably not going to win a lot of games. But Mike Tomlin finds ways to win games in Pittsburgh, even without starting quarterbacks. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers went 500 with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges at one point. Does Kyler Murray have a head coach like that? No, he does not. So all I'm saying is, Kyler Murray, look in the mirror, people. Look in the mirror, Kyler. You're 5'10". You're very talented, but you're 5'10". You cannot overcome dysfunction and average rosters year in and year out. If you think you can do it, fine. Go prove me wrong. But all I'm saying is, if Kyler Murray knows his worth, he will demand a trade and go to a different situation that will be able to elevate him. Because it just seems like Arizona just asked Kyler Murray to go out there and make plays. It doesn't seem like Kyler Murray has the coaching or the roster around him to maximize his skill set. Let me tell you something right now. I'm just going to throw this out there. If Bill Belichick were to get his hands on the likes of Kyler Murray, wouldn't that be a situation that could find some success? I'd love to see Belichick coach Kyler Murray, because I understand Belichick is a defensive-minded guy, but what do we hear about Kyler Murray? A little bit aloof, not the most natural leader, tends to sometimes do the bare minimum work. I mean, there's a reason why there was a video game incentive, quote unquote, in his contract where they were saying, hey, Kyler, you need to get on Zoom and watch film more. No more video games, okay? Belichick, with that situation, Belichick would be able to elevate Kyler Murray. And I think a great head coach, similar to Belichick, could do the same thing for Kyler Murray. And say what you want about Tom Brady and his success in New England, about how he may have been more the driving ship compared to Belichick. You cannot tell me Belichick's rigid coaching style did not help bring the most out of Tom Brady. Because regardless of Tom Brady's talent, the coaching staff in New England helped put him in a position to succeed. They allowed him to develop and grow and prosper. They put great players around him. Didn't ask him to score 30 points in the playoffs very often. And Belichick coached him hard. And I think Kyler Murray needs to be in a better situation. And if I'm Kyler Murray, I'm bailing on Arizona, because I just don't think I can win a Super Bowl there. That's how I feel. Well, folks, that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Jemima McKinney. Have a God bless day. Stay safe. And I'm Ghost. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends if you enjoyed.